we're just so honored to have you with us, and congratulations. You've accomplished so much. And as I sat there and watching all the flashbacks to ESPN, and I remember the first time I met you, it was at an NCAA tournament. I may have been the Final Four or some regional, but I went up to you and I said, "Hi, I want to introduce myself. You've been a hero of mine for so long." And you looked at me and you said, "Girl, I'm not like some grandma." Like I was implying that you were old. And I said, "No, no, no, I don't mean that." But it's just, you honestly, I can tell you, you've been a role model of mine, and I appreciate you so much because you really have brought an authenticity to the job that is something that I strive to do, and it's really following your lead. So, okay, let's start from the
Thank
beginning.
you, Michele. All right. Bless you.
You were born in Tuskegee, Alabama, grew up in Mississippi in the 60s. When you look back at your childhood, how would you describe it to people?
Oh my goodness. Very grateful to be the daughter of Lawrence and Lucy Marion Roberts. That's how I look back at my childhood. My father was a Tuskegee Airman, the first black flying Air Corps in the military. Yes, I was born in Tuskegee, and we lived all around the country and around the world. And I was just so very grateful that my parents taught us about inclusion even at a very young age. When we were living in Izmir, Turkey, for example, we didn't live on a U.S. military base. My parents got us an apartment in town. We had to learn the language. We had to learn the customs. And it taught me early on, Michele, that we all in this world have more in common than not. The basics that what we are, family, faith, family, and friends, those kind of basic needs that we all have bring us together. And I'm so grateful that I had that strong foundation. And my parents taught me the 3 Ds. They taught me determination, they taught me discipline, and they taught me the Lord. So those 3 Ds really very strong foundation for me as a child.
Yeah, those are some core values that really they have to be instilled young. And you've been such a trailblazer throughout your career. We saw all the video. The first Black anchor woman at ESPN, the first Black female host of Wild World of Sports, first female host of an NFL pregame show, so many others. What do those historic firsts mean to you as you now can reflect back on them?
Oh, goodness, Michele. I never took time when it was happening. I just wanted to do the job. It's when you receive an honor like this, and I truly am honored and I'm grateful, but when you have to have the flashback and you see all your hair and the outfits and your voice like this, I'm like, when I forgot I talked like this when I was younger. But what really means the most to me, and you feel the same way, what really means the most to me, in all sincerity, Michele, and my mother told this to all of her children. I'm the youngest of four. And it's something that especially mothers of color have said to their children. And that is, it's great to be the first. Make sure you're not the last. And I remembered that. And I remembered that, okay, I'm not just doing this for myself. I have to make sure I do a great job, not just so I keep my job, so others coming behind me are going to have that opportunity. If I fail, I don't just fail for myself, but it's going to be a lot longer for another woman or another woman of color to be put in that position. And so what it means to me is when I see you and I can't even name all the talented women that are doing what I did at EA. I can't even. And there used to be a time that I could name all the women in sports journalists on one hand with fingers to spare. And so it's great to see the depth and the quality. And that's what it means to me to have been one of the first, to know that if I did some small thing with other women, my other contemporaries, if we blazed a trail, the way you guys have followed, whew, thank you.
It's been tough to fill those shoes, but I thank you guys for opening the door. I've been at it a long time, and people say to me, "Oh, you're a pioneer." And I say, "No, no, 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 no. Let me tell you about the real pioneers." And
they want to call you grandma now. See? Yeah, they want to call you grandma.
It's happening.
How's it feel?
It's happening. I'm being called ma'am and grandma. I can only imagine that there have been times because what you talked about is pretty weighty. And I thought about Phyllis George, her recent passing,
Mm.
that she was really, she stepped, it was baptism by fire. And to put yourself in that position to not look like everyone around you, you being not only female, African American, and I think that a lot of the people watching us today probably feel the same way. Maybe they're in the minority in some way, shape, or form
Yeah.
in their industries, in their businesses. What kind of advice would you give to them?
No one can be you but you. Embrace it. Don't run from it. Don't be fearful that no one looks like you. Embrace it. That's a good thing. The uniqueness is something that we need to embrace, and to know that, Michelle. Oh gosh, especially when I made the transition from sports to news. And I remember I would literally pray. I would literally pray when I'd walk through these doors. I'm in my dressing room now here at Times Square Studio because there's always breaking news, and so I have to be close by these days. But I remembered praying. I was like, "Dear Lord, just when is the day I'm going to walk through these doors and not and feel like I belong?" I always had this like this butterfly feeling because in sports, baby, that was my wheelhouse. Bring it on. I loved everything about sports. That's all I ever wanted to do was be a, first of all, professional athlete. That didn't even come close to being true. Then to be a sports journalist. But so I want women that are watching right now and you feel a little insecure for whatever reason, it's okay. It's okay. But to embrace who you are and to know that you are there for a reason, that there's a skill set that you have. I only have my life perspective, my lens, and I want a company. I want to be with somebody who wants to see through my lens as well. And so I think it's an exciting time right now. We're seeing that women are being given more opportunities. And what I've often said, and especially with sports, it's not about diversity. We got that down pat. It's inclusion, because diversity, you're on the team. Inclusion, you're in the game. And as women, we want to get in the game. So don't be afraid that no one else looks like you. Be proud and represent.
One of the things, and I want to run this by you because one of the things I get asked a lot is, how do you in a man's world, blah blah blah, and
Yeah.
it's been that same question for 25 years now, and I'm sort of over it. But one of the things I said going in, Robin, was I'm not going to consider myself necessarily a minority here. I'm just going to compete as a journalist, as a human being. I have as much right to be here as anybody else in this press conference, anyone else in this locker room. I'm going to compete with everyone. I'm not going to single myself out and put a hurdle in
Nope.
my way. How much of that did you think about?
Oh, I thought about that a lot, Michelle, because I remember when I was coming along. First of all, let me put on my teeth. When I was coming along, little whippersnapper. No, but there was the big deal was a woman in the locker room. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
getting equal access in the locker room was like a huge deal. And the way I express it is like, I don't want equal access to the locker room. I want equal access to the athlete who happens to be in the locker room. If I'm going to do my job like everybody else, I got to get in there. So if you want to take them out and put them somewhere else, that's cool. So when they understood, like, nobody wanted to be in that locker room. Those locker rooms stank. They're kind of environment to try and do your job. You know this. So I always realized that when I remember this distinctly when I was working in local markets, because I started off in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, making $5.50 an hour, 30 hours a week at WDAM in Hattiesburg, and then went to Biloxi, Mississippi, Nashville, Tennessee, and Atlanta, Georgia before ESPN. And I remember I was covering the Georgia Bulldogs. How about them dogs? And the local stations, everybody had their weekend person there. And so I was there, and I was not getting access to the locker room. And I saw the other two stations were going in, and they were getting the interviews and coming out and making the deadline for the newscast. And then I realized, Michelle, right then, I'm like, if I don't, my boss is going to be watching, seeing that the other two have this sound bite. We're not going to have it. I'm going to lose my job. And I can understand that. So I never took it personally. I understood it and just made sure that I positioned myself. Proximity is power. Wish, hope, and pray all you want, but you have to position yourself for success.
Yeah, no question about it. In 2017, the Human Rights Campaign honored you with the Visibility Award for your advocacy of the LGBTQ community. And I'm wondering how the acceptance of that community has changed in your view over the years, and also, what more has to happen?
When you showed the setup piece, when Paul and you saw me asking then President Barack Obama, did he change his stance on marriage equality? And to have done that interview, to me, it just stands out as one of the highlights of my life and my career. This morning on Good Morning America, yeah, it was a little plug for our station, our show, Good Morning America, I did an interview with Niecy Nash and Jessica Betts, her new wife. Niecy Nash, Jessica Betts. Didn't say, oh, they're two women. There was no, they were, she's a prominent person, Niecy Nash. Jessica, her wife, is somebody who had to put together a music video, beautiful couple. But I was struck, Michele, that I did the interview and it went for 6 minutes and there was no real talk about, oh, you're both women and you got married and what was that like, and or worried about how the audience, oh my gosh, we had to put a disclaimer or anything like that. And I was like, wow, we really are. I mean, we still have more work to do, but I think it's for all those, even before I announced to the world who I am, everybody who came before me to do the same thing. And it's something that has representation. I just think about, Michele, the young people from the LGBTQ community who saw that this morning and it wasn't a big deal, and who, when they reach out to me and my partner Amber of 15 years and say thank you, that they can now have a conversation with their families, that they can now have conversations with their boss, that means everything.
It's remarkable, and I hope that we can focus more on celebrating moments like this morning,
Yeah.
rather than rather than hanging on to what may have happened in the past. We have to evolve, and we have to do it organically. You have a unique view of history from where you sit, and as journalists, there are news stories that we cover professionally, but that can actually impact us personally. They can be transformative to us, and it sounds like your interview with the former president about marriage was maybe one of those. But are there other moments for you that you have covered as a journalist that sort of have changed you personally?
Ooh, Michele, when you saw me in that setup piece crying like a baby, when for Katrina, Hurricane Katrina, because backstory, I had just been named the co-anchor of Good Morning America with Diane Sawyer and Charlie Gibson. I mean, two who are just, to this day, phenomenal friends. But I mean, as journalists, and here I am, and I had those moments of doubt. And I mean, doubt is a funny thing. It just needs the eye of a needle to get in it. You just start doubting yourself. And it's when I had completely left ESPN. I'm working as a co-anchor with those two. I'm sent down to cover Hurricane Katrina. My family is from there. I had lost contact with them the day before. So I traveled down there, and I'm just there to do my job. And it was really funny when ABC asked me to fly down, I was thinking to myself, yeah, I'm going to fly down on your nickel because I want to find my mama. If I can make time to do but I really wanted to find my mom. Anyway, I get there. It is this total devastation. Barely find my mother and my sister in time before going on the air. And I didn't want to go. I didn't want to leave my mom. Our house was damaged, but at least they were okay. And my mom was the one who was like, no, go do your live shot. Let people know how bad it is here. So Michele, I get back and, I get all buttoned up and I do my report, when I arrived, And it was Charlie Gibson who said at the end of my report, hey, Robin, when you left here, you didn't know about your family. Were you able to find them? And the waterworks. And I was just raw. And it was a time, this was 2005, that you did not show that type of emotion on the air. And I thought for sure I was going to lose my job. I thought that no one's going to put up with that.
Did you really
and just
think that?
I did, Michelle, because it was like, you have to remember now, everybody's blah, they tell you everything, show you everything. But back then, you did not, as a journalist, you did not do that. And I'm working with Charlie and Diane, and they could not have been more, embracing me about it all. And people really, and this is why when you said something that happened professionally that impacted me personally, that's when I knew I'm going to be me. And not that I never really was not me, but I was trying to still fit into a certain role because eyes were always on me and I didn't want to fail and I didn't want to mess up. And then that moment when I just was just this is who I am, and the way people rallied around me, I'm like, all right, you know what? I am going to just be my authentic self. And I cannot stress that enough. I even talked teaching a master class on that, on being your authentic self. And whether you're a journalist or whatever line of work or whoever you are, you just cannot go wrong by being true to who you are.
I think that is why you were voted the most trusted person on television, because people know authenticity when they see it. And it's in every industry, on every level. People don't want the sugarcoating, they want to know who they're speaking with. And I think, that's got to mean a lot to you, that because in this day and age, there isn't a lot of authenticity in the media. We know that the media is suffering a credibility crisis, and here you are to be trusted like that. What does that mean to you?
It means everything. Of all the accolades that I've received, being voted most trusted means everything, especially in a time like this. And it's really hard when your profession. I'm very proud. I'm very proud to be a journalist. Extremely proud. And for it to constantly be undermined. And look, with any industry, you have good and you have bad. You have people who are good at it and people who are bad at it, people who take advantage. But the vast majority, and I can only speak for myself and for my news division, and knowing what we stand for, it hurts. But I think because I have been so honest with people, that they know, that they trust me they trust that I trust them, Michelle. They trust that I'm not gonna spin it in any kind of way. Here are the facts. Here are not a version of the truth. Here's the truth. You decide what you want to do with it. I'm not going to tell you what to do with it. And you might do something different from it than I would, but that's not on me. And I think that's why I have been received as I have, because I trust people. It might not be the same decision I make, but that's not on me, and it's not on them. Everyone's different, but I just really appreciate the fact that I'm able to present it and let them make choices for themselves.
I think that's why we saw in the piece Diane Sawyer say there are just rare times in the world that someone comes along that's just what you are, which is the authenticity. And we saw also in that tape, Robin, all the different people that you've interviewed over the course of so many years. And I mean, the list is amazing. And I don't know that you can answer with just one name, but when have you come away from one of those interviews going, wow, I'm inspired?
Oh gosh. Anytime I walked away from Michelle or Barack Obama, I was. Same thing with, and I'm not, and I don't get into politics, but the same way, the first time that I was invited to the White House was Laura Bush. Laura Bush invited me to a state dinner, and I've gotten to know the family very, very well. But I would have to, there was, instead of, and I shouldn't do this, because you should always focus on what you've had and not what you don't have or what you didn't get. I always wanted to interview Nelson Mandela. Oh, that was my dream interview. I mean, when I think about what this man went through and how he was about reconciliation and not retaliation, he was somebody that I wanted to talk with. Billie Jean King, Arthur Ashe are two interviews that I've had in year, and have just walked away astounded. And I just love that it's been these everyday people. I just recently talked to Judge Esther Salas, whose son was murdered right there at their home. She's a federal judge, the first Latina federal judge in the state of New Jersey. And a gunman came there looking for her and killed her her son and severely wounded her husband. And I did this interview, and her grace and her saying how hate is heavy, love is light, and she had forgiven the shooter. That is an interview I won't soon forget.
Oh, and people have not forgotten how you've overcome so much adversity. And again, as we said, you've done it so publicly. And, you know, there was the clip there of the Arthur Ashe Courage Award at the ESPYs. And 2007, you get the cancer diagnosis, you go through all the treatments, you battle, then the MDS, and you made that a very public battle so that I think that you could inspire others and take them on that journey. And I'm just wondering how all of that approach, that mindset has helped you through your life, has impacted your life.
Mm. Wow. It's made me realize we're all stronger than we think we are. You know, I use Judge Salas as an example. There were so many people who reached out and said, if somebody had killed my child, I would not be able to forgive that person. I would not be able to have the grace that she has. And she didn't know that she had that within herself. I didn't know that I had the strength to withstand the loss of my health, not once, but twice, the loss of my dear mother and father, who I talk to every single day, the loss of my hometown when Katrina wiped it off the map. And so it's just taught me that when people come up to me, and I'm always just, I'm humbled when people say that I'm an inspiration to them and that they look to me for strength. And I just want to hold up a mirror and say, that's you too. It's not just me, that I want to be a reflection. I want people to know that they have something within them that they don't even realize. And I would have loved to have learned the lessons that I have learned a different way. It wasn't through having to have cancer and all the things I talked about, but that's the way it was chosen for me to grow. And it's corny, I know, but it's the adversity. Come on, Michele. Think about the times that you got knocked around and stuff, and and how much you grew from that, and how much stronger you are from that, and to be where what you're doing and achieving. And would you have done that if it had been, clear sailing the entire way? I don't think so. I don't want challenges. I'm not looking for them, but I'm ready when they present themselves.
Amen to that. Being ready for the moment when it shows up. Because you know what? It's going to show up in some way, shape, or form. I mean, everyone's seeing it right now. And I love your message, which I think your mom said to you, make your mess your message. And, this year, the hashtag 2020, whatever you want to say, I hope, it's brought on so much challenge, loss, the pandemic, the natural disasters, the social justice tipping point that we're at. And, I have tried to teach my two kids to embrace this time because it's going to make them stronger, like you said, and they're going to look back on this, and they better come out of this thing better than when they went in, because otherwise it would be a waste of their time. So, what are you going to remember about this ridiculous year?
I know. Oh my gosh. I mean, and it's just October. I mean, don't say anything. Yeah. Who knows what other shoe is going to drop? But I've often felt that way, that whether it's a pandemic, divorce, unemployment, cancer, that's not the tragedy. It's if you don't take the time to, why is this being placed in my path? What am I supposed to learn here? That's the tragedy, not the actual event itself. And what I'm going to learn about this is with the racial injustice that we've seen, people coming together, I have never seen. I mean, my neighborhood in Connecticut is a pretty, I'll say, is a pretty white area. Okay. Black Lives Matter signs all over the place. And you have, Trump 2020 signs as well, that we talk to one another. We communicate. We're grown-ups. But what I'm going to remember most about 2020 is that despite everything that has happened. I have never in my lifetime, especially having grown up in the South, seeing white, black, brown, everybody in between linking arms together and saying enough is enough. And hopefully, because of that, that we will truly bring about the change that so many have been looking for. And there's a phrase that I've been using, and it's true justice will not be recognized until those who are not affected are as outraged as those who are. And that's what I'm going to remember from 2020 is seeing people who on paper are not affected by racial injustice, but they're just as outraged as those of us who are.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's what we are seeing. All right, I got a few little lightning round here for you, Robin. So get yourself ready. Okay, here we go. Most pivotal career moment.
Most pivotal career moment. Turning down ESPN the first time. You weren't expecting that?
I didn't know you did that.
Yes, in 1987, I was in Nashville. I'd only been out of school for 4 years, and I went up to Bristol, met Chris Berman, Dan Patrick. It was great, but ESPN was still very young, and I knew I wasn't ready. And I didn't want to be the answer to the trivia question. What black woman was hired in 1987 by ESPN and fired in 1988? And so the best pivotal moment was turning them down, getting the experience I needed so I could have staying power.
Holy cow, that's a story. I didn't know that story. I wish I did. Okay, so advice you'd give your younger self.
Don't be so scared. Why are you so scared? Why are you scared? Why are you scared? What are you scared of? You're scared of your own shadow. Why is it when we're so young, we're just so fearful? And I've gotten to that age and everything. I mean, the kitchen sink has been thrown at me at this point. And yeah, I still have those moments, but I would just tell my younger self, oh, you know what? This is what I tell my younger self. You're going to figure it out. Boom. You're going to figure it out.
There it is. You're going to get through it. Absolutely. This one's kind of hard because I don't. What do you hope to be remembered for the most?
Ooh, that I made a difference. My family has always been a public service, being of service to others. I just want to be remembered as being a symbol of this too shall pass. That's what I want to be remembered for. That I'm a symbol of this too shall pass, meaning that whatever, everybody's got something, and whatever that something is that someone's going through, and they think that they're not going to get through it, that it's not going to pass, that they'll think of me and go, yeah, this too shall pass. I'm gonna hang tough.
Because we are stronger than we think. We're stronger than we know. We have to be brave. You have to be brave enough to draw on that strength. For those watching today and they want to be an advocate for others in the workplace, how can they best do that?
We need advocates. We need allies. I love what Paul was saying earlier in his opening remarks and talking about how he wants to be held responsible. It is an awareness. I know they used to say this. I don't know if they say it anymore, the kids, to be woke. But an awareness, I'm always so behind. I'm sure that's 10 years ago, whatever, 10 minutes ago. But people in positions of power, and I'm finding this more and more, that they're realizing the responsibility that goes along with it, and that they're educating themselves. And it's not just those people in positions of power. It's what I've been very encouraged by. People are realizing that there's a lot they have to learn, and also a lot they have to unlearn about certain things in our country and the history that wasn't, was kind of sugar-coated, some things. But I'm encouraged by this true desire for this to be different, for it not to be about promises anymore, but about performance. And I think we're seeing leaders that are saying this, that yes, They want to be held accountable, and they want to be metrics met. And I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing in that regard.
We have a few minutes for audience questions if they want to submit them. I've got one here in front of me. What's one thing you do every day to keep a positive mindset?
What's one thing I do every day to keep a positive mindset? I meditate every day, which is huge. I should do it twice a day, but I do it once a day. But I'm not as consistent with it as I would like. Sometimes I'll go a great stretch of time and then I won't and come back. But a lot of people who meditate. But one thing I do every single day that brings me peace, the light of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me. The power of God protects me. The presence of God watches over me. Wherever I am, God is. I say that simple prayer that my mama taught me, and she helped me by telling it to 2 L's and the 2 P's when I was little and I couldn't remember. The 2 L's and the 2 P's. I say that prayer every single morning, no matter where I am in this country or around the world, before I head out and start my day. And that really brings me peace and keeps me grounded.
I love and admire people who are open with their faith. I think that's something we're losing these days, and I love it. And I see it among a lot of pro athletes too. Okay, tip you have to manage the work-life balance.
Okay, first of all, throw out the word balance. There is no balance. Whoever said that. Hello. Newsflash. Oh, okay. That's true. When I work, I work. When I play, I play. And that's the balance, if you want to call it that. It's my mama used to say, and I'm going to write a book with my mommyisms. She used to say, you can have it all, just not all at the same time. You can have it all, just not all at the same time. And so that's how I approach it. When I am at work, I'm at work. When I leave here and I'm on vacation or whatnot, I'm not one of those that's constantly on my phone and doing that. And it's just like you have to prioritize. It's really funny to me that they'll make a priority. Why is it that you'll check your email and you'll respond to other people's emails before you'll send out the emails that you need to send out? It's like you're always responding to everybody else, like you're putting out everybody else's fire. Stop putting out everybody else's fire. Put your fire out first. And if you got some time left over, then you then help them out. But this is also something. It is because how many times when you know you have some work to do and then you get in and you see your emails like and you start responding to them. Do yours first, then get to them.
Yeah, priorities. Most influential person in your life?
If you haven't noticed, my mama, Lucy Marion.
That was going to be.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I know I should say no. People want a famous name. To me, she is the most famous person. Lucy Marion Tolliver Roberts. Let me just tell you a quick story about my mama. First in her family to go to college. Grew up in Akron, Ohio. Went to Howard University on a $100 scholarship that her enrichment teacher, Wilma Schnegg, from elementary school, stayed in touch with my mother as she went to high school because my grandparents didn't have the life skills to help their children know how to go to college. Wonderful people, but that they had dropped out of school in 4th and 5th grade. So this wonderful woman, Wilma Schnegg, helped my mother get a scholarship. She goes to Howard. She meets my father. And this is my mama in a nutshell. She barely had 2 nickels to rub together. Her dorm room was next to the cafeteria. She would look out, and when she would see my father-to-be going into the cafeteria, she would run down, bump into him. He was such a gentleman, he would always pay for her meal. My mama was always thinking, I love that about her. She was, and I was like, poor daddy, he never had a shot. But my mother, she put her dreams on pause for her children. And once we were all out of the house, and I'm sorry, I'm getting so many notifications, and I apologize so much with this little binging, but it's a crazy times here at work, so I apologize for if you're hearing the dings. But what my mother did, that once we were all out of the house, that's when she became on the State Board of Education, which then she became the chairperson, the Coliseum Commission, Federal Reserve. The list went on and on and on, and this was all after her children were out of the house. And so she really showed me, again, she had it all. She had her children and was there for us, though she didn't bake cookies. She wasn't one of those mamas, and so I don't want to paint this kind of picture, this false picture of her. She was human. Um, but the fact that she gave to her children, and then when we were gone, she gave to herself, and that the fact that my daddy was right there. Like my dad was like, okay, you followed us around. My mom, they moved like 20 something times with my dad in the service. And my mom never batted an eye. And my dad never batted an eye when it was my mom's turn to step up and be the leader in the family and doing all the traveling. And he was the plus one. And he was fine with that. It was a great example.
The essence of a solid partnership. It's beautiful. And I'm going to be the first in line to sign up for your Momisms book. So get that published. I'm ready to hand you my money, because she sounds like someone I would have just loved to hang out with. And you are someone that we've all enjoyed and benefited from hanging out with today, Robin.
Thank you. Thank you. I know you got to run, but Michele Tafoya, I love you. I remember one time we were both coming back from an assignment. We were in rental cars. You didn't see me. You come barreling by me. You had like some rock and roll song playing. You were just singing to the top. And you embrace life. You embrace life. And I'm so proud of you and all. And I saw, and I love that they showed all that you have accomplished. And you are not about to give up that baton. You are still running your race. And I'm watching and I'm appreciating it every single time I see you. Thank you.
Right back at you, lady. And big this. I don't do this very often, but I'm sending you one.
Oh, yeah.
I mean it. And thank you for everything and for your example and for being here with us. I wish we didn't have to go, because I could talk to you all day long. But congratulations. It is Robin Roberts, the 2020 KPMG Inspire Greatness Award winner. She's the most deserving honoree. We are so grateful. Ladies and gentlemen, one more round of applause for the woman, Robin Roberts.
And the crowd goes mild.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's my day is made.